The siren started 20 minutes ago, and you're still sitting there thinking you have time. You don't. Right now, somewhere in your city, someone in a control room is looking at a screen, and they're not watching the chaos unfold. They're watching the exits. They're watching you. Your escape plan is worthless. Not because you didn't plan, but because you planned for a world where the roads stay open, the bridges stay up, and the authorities are too overwhelmed to care about little old you driving toward your cousin's farm 3 states away. That's not how this works. It never has been. The iron law. In any serious collapse, grid failure, civil unrest, a pandemic with teeth, or full martial law, the first thing authorities do is control movement. They lock the exits, they funnel the flow, they turn every major route into a monitoring station, a checkpoint, or a kill zone. They're not doing this because they're evil. They're doing it because it works. Movement control is the oldest tool in the control playbook. You can't organize resistance if you can't move. You can't flee a disaster zone and bring chaos to a clean zone if they can stop you at the bridge. You can't hoard resources in your rural hideout if they can intercept you on the freeway. So let's talk about the 6 routes you're probably counting on and why every single one will be locked, weaponized, or turned into a trap before you even finish packing your bug-out bag. But first, the multiplier rule. A good escape route is not just a line on a map. It's not just a way out. It gives you multiple advantages simultaneously: speed, concealment, access to water, resupply options, multiple branch points, fallback positions. If your route only does one thing, if it only gets you from A to B, it's already failed. Because the moment that single function is blocked, you're dead in the water with no options. Remember that. Multipliers. We'll come back to it. Route 1. The concrete arteries. The fantasy, you've driven this highway 100 times. You know the exits, the rest stops, the gas stations. In your head, the plan is simple. Grab the bag, hit the interstate, and you're 2 hours from safety. Maybe 3 with traffic. You've timed it on a Sunday morning, 90 minutes flat. The lockdown. Within the first hour of any serious emergency, authorities activate contraflow. Lanes reverse to maximize outbound capacity. Sounds helpful until you realize contraflow requires control points. On-ramps get sealed. Off-ramps become checkpoints. The highway isn't a route anymore. It's a controlled corridor, and you're inside it. Add traffic. Everyone else had the same plan. The interstate becomes a parking lot. People run out of fuel. Tempers flare. Someone pulls a weapon in a road rage incident near mile marker 47, and suddenly the whole thing is a crime scene. Nobody moves. You're sitting in your car, burning fuel, watching the sun go down, wondering why you didn't leave earlier. While you're stuck, checkpoints are established ahead. Vehicle searches, ID verification, questions about where you're going and why. Medical screenings if it's a pandemic scenario. If you can't satisfy them, you get redirected not to your destination, but to a processing center, a shelter, a camp, the covert variant. People who actually escape via highway corridors don't use the highway. They use what the highway replaced. Before the interstate system was built, there were roads, old state routes, farm-to-market roads, frontage roads that run parallel to the freeway, sometimes hidden behind a tree line or a warehouse district. These roads are slower, rougher, but they're not controlled. They're not checkpointed. They don't show up on the evacuation algorithm. And here's the multiplier. These old routes often run alongside water sources, because that's how roads were built before we stopped caring about rivers. They pass through agricultural areas, which means access to resources. They have multiple turnoffs, which means if one segment is blocked, you have options. The interstate is a trap dressed as an escape route. The frontage road is an escape route dressed as nothing at all. Route 2. The bottleneck bridges. The fantasy, there's a bridge. It gets you across the river, across the bay, out of the city and into the safe zone on the other side. You've crossed it 1,000 times without thinking. In your mind, that bridge is your lifeline. The lockdown, bridges are the single easiest infrastructure to control. One checkpoint on each end, and suddenly a mile-long structure becomes a perfect filter. Every vehicle, every pedestrian, every bicycle has to pass through a narrow point where they can be stopped, searched, questioned, or turned back. But authorities aren't the only ones who understand this. In a collapse scenario, bridges become ambush magnets. Opportunists, gangs, desperate people who missed their window and now see you as a supply cache on wheels. They don't need to control the bridge. They just need to wait at one end. And bridges can be destroyed, not by you, but by the people who want to control the flow. A bridge that's too hard to checkpoint can simply be dropped. It's happened in wars. It's happened in riots. It'll happen again. The covert variant. Rivers have gaps. Secondary crossings exist. Smaller bridges that aren't on the main evacuation routes. Rail bridges crossable on foot. Maintenance walkways underneath larger structures. Accessible if you know where the service doors are. Then there are fords, shallow points in rivers where, during the right season, you can cross in a vehicle with decent clearance or on foot with preparation. These points aren't marked on Google Maps. They're on topographic maps. They're in local knowledge. They're in the memory of farmers and hunters who've lived along these rivers for generations. The river itself is a multiplier, water access, navigation line, concealment route if you move along the banks instead of over them. The bridge is where everyone goes. The river is where smart people disappear. Route 3, the steel spine. The fantasy. When things collapse, trains stop, rails go dead. Nobody thinks about train tracks because there are no trains on them. They're irrelevant. The lockdown? Wrong. Rail corridors are some of the most strategically valuable terrain in any collapse scenario. They're long, relatively straight, pre-cleared of obstacles and vegetation for over a century. They connect major industrial hubs, distribution centers, fuel depots, and ports. That means two things. Authorities will prioritize securing them for critical logistics, moving troops, moving supplies, moving things they don't want you to know about. Anyone who understands territory will see them as control spines. That means organized criminal elements, militias, and opportunistic warlords. You think you're walking down an abandoned rail line like it's a nature trail? You're walking down a supply artery that everyone with power wants to control? The covert variant. You don't walk on the rail line. You walk alongside it 50 meters into the tree line, or behind the industrial margins that always border rail corridors. You use the rail as a navigation spine, a way to maintain direction without GPS, a landmark you can always return to if you get disoriented. Rail corridors also give you access to something most escape routes don't: industrial margins, warehouses, maintenance facilities, equipment yards. Places with tools, shelter, resources that haven't been picked clean because nobody thinks to look there. The rail line isn't your path, it's your guide to 100 hidden opportunities along its length. The multiplier? Direction, shelter, resources, concealment, 4 functions from one terrain feature. Route 4, the underground maze. The fantasy. You live in a city with a subway system. When things go bad, you'll catch the last train out to the end of the line, past the urban core, into the suburbs where you can disappear. Or maybe you'll duck into a station for cover and wait things out underground. The lockdown, mass transit isn't designed to evacuate you. It's designed to move you efficiently during normal operations. The moment operations stop being normal, transit becomes a liability. Trains are shut down to prevent unrest from spreading between districts. Stations become containment points, not escape points. Those locked gates at the entrance, they lock from the outside too. And if you're underground when the power goes out, you're in a concrete tomb with 1,000 panicked strangers and no light. That's not shelter. That's a death trap with extra steps. The covert variant. The subway system is more than trains and platforms. It's a network of service tunnels, maintenance passages, ventilation shafts, and emergency exits that the public never sees. Some of these exits surface in unexpected places: basements of commercial buildings, utility access points in parks, stairwells that look like electrical closets. Elevated rail lines offer a different advantage: height. In an urban environment, Elevation is observation visibility to assess crowd behavior, checkpoint locations, and safe corridors before you commit to a ground-level route. The multipliers are concealment, vertical movement options, and access to urban terrain most people don't even know exists. The subway isn't your escape. The infrastructure around the subway is Route 5, the algorithmic trap. The fantasy, you'll open your phone, check traffic, follow the blue line. The app knows the fastest route. The app is always right. The lockdown, the app is feeding you directly into a funnel. Everyone with a smartphone is looking at the same algorithm, the same suggested routes, the same alternatives. You're not navigating, you're being herded. And in a controlled scenario, those apps become tools of the state, not through some conspiracy, but through simple infrastructure. The servers that run mapping services depend on cell towers, which depend on power, which depends on maintained grid infrastructure. In a real collapse, your app is either dead or showing you exactly what someone wants you to see. Worse, your phone is a tracking device. Every time you ping a tower, every time you request a route, you're announcing your position and your intended destination. In a martial law scenario, that's not navigation, it's confession. The covert variant, paper maps, topographic maps, printed before the collapse, studied before the collapse, marked with your own annotations. Routes the algorithm never suggests because they're not optimized for speed or convenience. They're optimized for survival. Contour lines tell you where the terrain folds, where valleys hide movement, where ridges give observation. Road atlases show you the old highways, the county roads, the farm tracks that digital navigation considers irrelevant. The multiplier is independence, unpredictability, invisibility. When everyone is following the algorithm, the person with the paper map is a ghost. Route 6, the compliance corridor. The fantasy, the government will announce evacuation routes, official safe corridors. All you have to do is follow the signs, follow the instructions, and you'll be led to safety. The system will take care of you. The lockdown, evacuation routes aren't designed to free you. They're designed to manage you, to count you, to process you. ID checkpoints, medical screenings, vehicle inspections, confiscation points where your supplies become their supplies because it's for the greater good. At the end of that corridor, not freedom, a shelter, a camp, a controlled environment where you've traded mobility for their protection. Maybe that's the right trade. Maybe it isn't. But it's not an escape. It's a surrender with extra steps. The covert variant, official routes have one advantage, crowds. And crowds have one advantage, anonymity. In the early stages of an evacuation, when the corridors are still flowing, you can use them as cover. Move with the mass until you reach a branch point the authorities haven't secured yet. Then break off. Disappear into the side channel while everyone else continues toward the processing center. Timing is everything. Too early, and the route isn't crowded enough to hide in. Too late, and the checkpoints are locked down. There's a narrow window where the official route is useful as concealment and then becomes a trap. The multiplier is tactical. You're not following the route. You're using the route to mask your deviation from it. The chain. Here's what separates the people who escape from the people who don't. They don't rely on any single route. They stitch together segments a mile on the frontage road, a crossing at the secondary bridge, navigation along the rail corridor, deviation from the official evacuation, disappearance into the urban margins. Each segment is chosen for its multipliers. Each transition point is pre-scouted. Each fallback is already mapped. The escape isn't a line, it's a chain, and every link has a backup. This isn't about secret maps. It isn't about classified intelligence. It's about the brain that can see how paths interlock, how choke points form, how the same terrain that traps everyone else becomes an advantage for you. The only preparation that matters. You cannot learn your routes when the sirens are already screaming. You cannot scout terrain when the checkpoints are already going up. You cannot find the secondary bridge when you're already stuck in traffic on the primary one. The time to prepare is now. In the calm, in the quiet, When driving down an old farm road feels like a waste of time. When walking along a rail corridor feels paranoid. When printing paper maps feels like something your grandfather would do it anyway. Drive the routes, walk the terrain, stand at the bridge and look for the ford. Find the maintenance doors, mark the branch points. Program your brain so that when the moment comes, you don't have to think, you just move. Because when the exit's close, when the corridor's locked down, when everyone else is sitting in traffic wondering what happened to their plan, you'll already be gone. The path was always there. You just had to see it before they sealed it shut.